So continuing on our conversation about the startup acquisition process and Lincoln Learn becoming impactable, what sort of buyers have you encountered that exist for startup acquisitions?
So yeah, that was something that I knew absolutely nothing about. I was just under the assumption that you list your agency for sale and that the type of buyers would be, I hadn't given much thought, people with money who want to buy your agency. But obviously it's much more nuanced than that. There's a reason they want to buy it. And I found, at least in my limited experience of selling one agency, that the main buyers, and it was a marketing agency. So the main buyers that were attracted to our agency fell into a couple categories. One was much larger marketing agencies who were keeping an eye on smaller, specialized agencies that they could roll up into theirs. And I think they called it a roll up. Roll up seemed to be a term that was used multiple times. There's also people that don't own a big marketing agency, but they want to start one and they don't want to start from scratch. So they buy a series of small marketing agencies in different niches and they call it like a roll up startup or something. So they basically create a big multifaceted marketing agency from simply buying a dozen small agencies. Well, not simply, because that would take a lot of money. But that was the first, probably most common type of buyer who was approaching me, was larger agencies looking to roll us up. They wanted a LinkedIn wing. They didn't have that specialty in-house. They didn't want to build it. And they just simply wanted to buy our systems, our data, our process. The second type of buyer was someone who was a career, like high-level career kind of marketer or VP in a company that was either exiting that company, and they were looking to start their own agency, but they didn't want to start from scratch. So they came from a kind of a prestigious, high revenue position. They wanted to kind of go out on their own, but they didn't want to build something from zero. They wanted to buy something that had, $1 million a year in revenue, and then take that plus with their knowledge and run with it. Their thought was that they find something that's undervalued, something that has potential, give them something to do that's already kind of in the works, and then run with that. So that was kind of interesting because I could see that. And one of them was, I think the most notable one was this guy who made, he was like a VP of sales in some decent sized organization, and his specialty was cold calling. So his thought was that he would buy, at the time we were a LinkedIn lead generation agency, he would buy a LinkedIn lead generation agency, he would scale it with his cold calling experience, and then he would bolt on cold calling as an additional offering to the agency. So then you'd have LinkedIn outreach, you'd have email, and you'd have cold calling. So he would expand on our services using his area of a specialty. So actually that one made a lot of sense. In that scenario though, the important thing is, at least for me, what is my role post sale in these scenarios? In the first scenario, a lot of times they may have use for me, they may not, depending on the leadership structure inside the bigger marketing agency. In this scenario, where someone's looking to replace their income, they have no need for me. They think they can run with it on their own. They want to be heavily involved in the business. They want to drive it, and they don't have any extra space for the previous founder. So that was the one thing I would have to find something else to do, and I didn't have anything lined up at the time, so that was less attractive to me. And then the third type of buyer that I encountered was the pure investor, someone who owned other assets, they owned other companies, and they viewed buying this company as kind of like a stock or a real estate investment, something that had potential, was undervalued at the time, that they could invest in now, leave the founder in place with ownership still intact, and help grow it so that their investment, what they bought, this stock at now, would grow over the next 5 years, and with the goal of selling it in 5